right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Serious Angler podcast, powered by our friends over at X2 Power Batteries. As always, I'm your host, Bailey Eichbrett, and unfortunately, guys, tonight we are captainless. We are without Mr. Andy Full. He had some stuff happen with the old Camus, so he is getting that squared away because he's got a full schedule of guide trips, and that comes first in precedent over the podcast. But he'll be back. He'll be back for the rest of this week's show. And I know he's bummed to miss tonight's because he was really looking forward to getting Mr. Luke Palmer back on here, who we love to have on the show, and is being gracious enough to hop on here during practice. Doesn't sound like we're missing too much in practice. We'll bring that up a little bit here later in the show, but we've been meaning to dive into his dub, and I'm really proud to see Luke get one. We were I was telling Luke I was actually at my college's alumni weekend with all my old college buddies, and I made the bartender put the Bass Live weigh-in on at the bar, and I was yelling at the TV when Luke got the win. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But yeah, unfortunately, no Andy tonight. I know he'd love to be here, but really fast for folks, if you guys have not checked out the recent Lure Lab episode, he did a great Lure Lab episode on the Chapo with Mr. Josh Bertrand. That was this past Saturday. That's on his own platform. You guys can check out those links below, as well as for folks that are looking to get into a bass boat or a boat in general, or have just general boat financing questions. Deacon on Business from the Bass Boat had a great episode with Rec Lending last week, talking just a general Q&A for folks that have financing questions, that sort of deal, and don't want to be overpaying for their bass boat, because we all know the more pennies you can save on that thing, the more sweet toys you can put on it, and that's all we're striving for these days. But yeah, beyond that, folks, you guys will see a little change of scenery here. I'm not at the apartment. We got the new house. We'll give you guys a full tour later on here as we get settled. We literally got almost everything moved over today. I don't know if we can see in the background. We got the Serious Angler logo back there. We're going to get some LEDs and such around it. Super excited because we'll have a lot more Do It Molds content coming your way. But last thing before we get Mr. Luke Palmer around here was I fished a local kayak tournament here on Cayuga Lake this past weekend. It was in conjunction with a regional tournament, Elite Kayak Fishing. And man, one of the coolest things to date for me, for the Serious Angler folk, was I saw probably 5-6 Serious Angler hats sitting there at awards with people I didn't even know who they were. And that's awesome. I got to meet some awesome people, shook some hands, made some great introductions, people I love to fish with here in the future that were rocking Serious Angler hats. So huge shout out to you guys. If you want to get some, seriousanglernetwork.com. But that was a cool moment looking around the room, seeing the logo around. So appreciate y'all. And without further ado, let's get him on here. Mr. Luke Palmer. What's going on, dude?
Oh, not much. How are you, buddy?
I can't complain, man. We're at the new crib. I was miserable back in that apartment, and we're talking fishing. We got you on here now. We're good. We're living, buddy.
We're back in action.
That's right. Hey, you got to be feeling pretty good. I mean, I see your lay is a little bit of a struggle, but you got to be still riding a little bit of a high.
I am. I don't get me wrong. I mean, I really wish we was just headed straight back home. I do. I kind of want to take the trophy, let's go ahead and stop the year. Go ahead and COVID it right now. We'll just go ahead and bring it back, stop it, and just go ahead and push it to the classic. And I'd be tickled to death of where we're sitting right now. But that's part of it. So, last week or 2 weeks, whatever ago, that means absolutely nothing right now. So we have to turn our heads and get back in game and try to get our head down and try to catch a fish.
Did you? I know you were living it up on the beach a little bit, but you get at least some little of a party action to celebrate?
I think Aaron Scriptcheck, the guy that helps me with my social media, does my YouTube and stuff now, he's like my best friend. And I think we made it to the beach Monday. Tuesday, the Cooper Gallant showed up Tuesday morning, so we had us a heck of a day. I don't know if you see my post and stuff, but you got me, shirt off, roasted to a T. And then you got Aaron, he still got his shirt on. And you got Coop, shows up with slides, socks, pants, a vest, and a long sleeve shirt. So you can imagine us. We're towing this little like roller ice chest with our little tunes on it, like one of those little, I don't know, little boom box, I call them, or a little bit.
Yeah.
We got it. And there's us three just tootling down the beach, just jamming out to everything that we could. And people probably just cussing us like dogs. But we had us a good couple of days. And what's bad is we came back to South Carolina over to Murray, and some guys we'd stayed with during the Murray tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "Hey, come back when y'all get done." They actually all showed up to the weigh-in, which was really cool at Santee. And we went back to them, and it was 2 nights of cooking and Dr. Peppers, and they're fun. Like they're like hell. They've called me every day, and
that's awesome.
We hated leaving. I mean, me and Aaron, we like stay with Brock and then Josh and Docs, and we would get done for practice, and it would like be 4 golf carts pull up to the house, and it'd be like, okay, well, I guess we're going to eat and have a couple of Dr. Peppers tonight. I mean, that's how it was every night with them. So it was awesome. So we got a few nights of that, and was even more cool. I mean, other than all that, that was awesome. Friday night we show up to Bass, and went in and seen everybody and brought the trophy in, and that night they had kind of a little low shindig at Kyle Jesse, the photographer.
Yeah,
me and him are really close, and then Mandy and Laura, all of them, and they had got a couple of Kyle's like awesome photos from the day, and made me a couple, like had some frames made, and had me a cake and stuff. It's kind of like a celebration, so that was really cool. I mean, it capped it all off on that Friday night, so we had a lot of fun, and it was, it still doesn't seem real. It still don't seem real, man.
That's awesome, dude. Well, man, I think the entire bass fishing community is hyped for you. We all knew it was a long time coming, and definitely was a cool moment for a lot of folks seeing you host that trophy.
It was, man. It was, it's one of them deals that me and Aaron have watched the footage way too much, and it's like we had to quit watching it because hell, both of us be half crying before it was over with. Because as he knows how much time I've put into it, especially now because he's in the fish or hunting industry. So him getting to witness that and being, like I said, me and him are close, really close. And for somebody that like cares about it, he even tell you, he'll straight up, he said, I don't give a flip about fishing. He said, because of you, I'm watching it now and knows a bunch about it. And for somebody that really wants you to win and be there with you. And it was pretty cool. And then get to capture it all for me, and now, my family wasn't there. They're able to witness the behind the scenes of me, like
emotion,
the real side of it. I mean, everybody sees the weigh-in, and that's awesome. And weigh-ins is where it's at. I mean, and they got to see the ride home, the practice that sucked, the Love's Quick Stop getting us a beverage or two, and just like, what are we going to do? Do we have enough? The stress. I mean, he does a very good job of capturing all that, and then the emotional side of it, man. It's because I don't care how big of a man you are, or whatever. When you work for something, you finally achieve that goal. If you don't have emotion for it, then what goal was it? Or I don't feel like that. I mean,
it almost seems meaningless.
Yeah, 100%. This one meant a lot.
Yeah, I will say you guys are knocking it out of the park, especially when it comes to the YouTube side. I'm really excited for the Santee episode.
That one's going to be pretty sweet. We're about to. I think he's dropping the Murray one. I think it's going to be Wednesday, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, the Murray one drops Wednesday. It's actually pretty sweet. I've got to watch it. And he got to actually ride the boat with me on the second day, and I caught the snot out of it, and all top water blows up. I mean, there's some hook sets. I and I like to hit them when I hit them. So it was fun, and it's like I said, you get to see the guys we hung out with, the big block sandwiches that we ate. We had a blast. So, but the Santee one's gonna be real fun. Santee's gonna be sweet.
When can folks like it's just a date range? Do you think when do you think the Santee one will be posted?
It'll be after this one. I'm saying within 10 days to 2 weeks. He's waiting on some other footage to get to us because GoPro is kind of pointless on Wednesday or the third and fourth day. I mean, we got a camera guy with us, and he was on top. Hunter, there's some photos that we got that probably hadn't been out. I don't know how to do that. Okay. Yeah, I'm on Aaron's computer because I can't get on mine. I have no service where I'm at. So.
That'd be funny if we could get Aaron's mom to Skype into the podcast.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. That'd be sweet. But it was it's gonna be sweet. Like I said, we need to get Hunter Lindsay, who was my camera guy for the 2 days. Dude, me and him really jived good. I mean, I was catching them pretty good. So
yeah.
I'll never forget. This was the best part. On day 4, I already had all my weight, almost 26. By 10 o'clock or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'd found a good one and about a 3-pounder on a tree, and I was flipping on him, and I got the 3-pounder. He was starting to get fired up. He was about to eat. And I could hear him back. He's telling Bass Live, he's like, hey, I need to change batteries. I'm like, hey, go ahead and change the batteries out. I walk back there, get my glasses out, clean them, kind of helping him change batteries out. And Kyle was like, Hunter, have you ever had a pro walk back there and help you change batteries and everything? He's like, not in my wildest dreams would I thought that. But I mean, hell, it's just if I catch one, I want him to get it on film, because
team player.
This is one of them special things. I mean, I never thought I'd want it until I got there and checked in.
Really? You had no clue?
No. I really thought I was one fish short the whole day. And, I mean, I never quit. I mean, I might have slowed down. I was eased up, to an extent. But I was still looking for a couple trees and I lost a couple that we could have really pumped us on over the edge, I think. But it was still a struggle. And the wind hit at the right time. I couldn't do it. I mean, shoot, you can't fish in 30 to 50 mile an hour winds. I don't care where you're at. It just it limits you. So, but everything worked out. I'm not going to. I wanted to get 100. Just because last year I had opportunities big time to make it, and I screwed that up. And then this year, I can't say I screwed it up because I had a magical week. I mean, it was magical.
Yeah, I mean, dude. There was we're gonna dive into a few different avenues of your win, but that last day, Menendez was charging early. I think it was 8:30, and I think he had 4 for 21 or something like that, something crazy. We're like, damn, is Menendez gonna make this charge back? But then it was literally 15 minutes, and it's you had 4 for 19, and you're like, yeah, okay, I think Luke's got this. It's in the bag, and dude, but they're talking about. One of the things we're going to get into in a little bit is the use of livescope on these trees, because they were talking about it like it was some new thing, but you used that heavy last year, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've used it a few times in my lifetime now, and I kept it. I don't know.
Right? It's perspective.
Yeah, no. I'm using regular.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I don't even know what perspective is half the time. I don't even have a mount on my boat that would make it perspective.
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean, I could really be running 3 graphs and be fine. But I'm running 4. I run 4. I'm running 4. I'm running 2 at the back, 2 up front.
Right.
I really run them just in case something happens to one of them. I mean, the Garmin's have been great for me. That's not a sponsor. That's just who I'm running, and they've been a very good product for me so far. But I just want to be, if something happens, I dang sure got a live scope up there. I depend on it quite a bit. I mean, obviously that one was, I would have really liked to have been up there in Menendez's fishes, because there's no telling what could have happened up there. Because there's no way he was just catching one off each tree and there wasn't nothing else there. But if I went back and looked at every fish I caught off of certain trees, everyone almost, I bet 80% of them was female first bite. Which that's unheard of. Well, I was catching the donkey first. I mean, on the first day when I didn't have a fish at 1:30, I pulled out to a tree and I flipped up there on it, and boom, I catch a 2.5 pounder, whatever it was. And I dropped my poles, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I caught a fish!" Like my marshal he'd already gave up on me. He's back there Facebook and YouTube and whatever else probably by 1:30. I mean, he's give out because I was too. I was struggling, man. I'd lost 5 fish in a row that morning on a buzzbait, so that didn't help me out at all. And I stood back up there and I scoped up and I was like, "Well, damn, there's another one sitting there." And I flipped what I was flipping in there and it didn't happen. And I picked up Virgo Red on the woolly bug and it was like second flip. I told him, I said, "I'm about to crack this one." He's like, "Do what?" I said, "Watch this." Next flip, whack. I seen how stupid she was getting. And she was like a 3.5, 4 pounder. I was like, "Okay, that's cool." So I went back to fishing my grass and I was going down through some trees. I fished the grass line up to them and I flipped on a tree. I had a bite in practice and shook it off. It felt like a good one. I was like, "Damn, I'd really hoping there's going to be a fish there." And I made the next flip to this next tree and it never made it to the bottom. And about the time I picked up, my line was just going to the side. And I shot my scope over there. And about when I set the hook, and I was like, I hit her, and it was like a 7.5. That's not a male, you know. And when I shot my scope over there, I said, "There's a 3 or 4 there." He was like, "What?" I said, "What was that?" And I said, "Hang on." I said, I put her in a box. I spun around. I dropped the poles, and it was like whack, whack. And the other ones were like 2.5, 3 pounders. So, and then on day 2, the first fish I caught on each tree, they were all 5 to 7 pounds when I hit them, the first fish, which, and that doesn't make sense because, it's always a male when you're bed fishing, the male bites first,
Right.
Most of the time. And most of these were all females. So he was catching giant female, if they were spawning out there on those trees. Who knows? He might have been catching them, I don't know. His fish are pretty damn heavy to be, to be post spawn fish. So I just, it's one of those deals that I'd really like to just, if I didn't have live scope, just go fishing those trees, and I wouldn't have caught all those fish because I spent anywhere from 20 to 45 minutes on certain fish.
Yeah, that was the super intriguing part about it. And the whole time, for whatever reason, I was assuming that you were using perspective looking at these fish, but it's even cooler knowing that you're using forward. And we're gonna get into it, but the funny part, and we talked about this actually last night on our fantasy fishing live for Lay Lake, was how they literally in the same day was you watching you scope 4 fish off a tree on the final day, and then Mark Menendez saying you got to turn off all your electronics if you're going to get these fish to eat. And it was just like, it was super funny. There's the two different methods that go into it but I mean, they both were catching them though. It was super cool.
I would never forget Hackney. They were talking about, they were fishing Lake Texoma when it was flooded. He ended up winning that year. I don't remember what year it was, 15, 16, whatever it was. And somebody was talking like, "Yeah, you have to use fluorocarbon." They're hearing it going through the brush, and Hackney's like dropping a 1-ounce jig with 65-pound braid and just cracking them. It's like, "Oh, nah, I don't think it matters. Just you find the right one, they're going to eat." And heavily pressured fish, I think that they're starting to get. You can tell when they get accustomed to live scope because they're dang sure accustomed to it here at Lake. I can promise you that. Like they'll come up to your trolling motor. So
Really?
yeah, they're feeling it. They know it's there.
Oh man.
Yeah,
that's pretty interesting. So here's a question we got Hello Bass in the chat, Mr. Rich Lindgren. Also some great fantasy fishing knowledge here if you guys are into that and want to get some more insights into your picks. But he's asking, how deep are most of the cypress trees that you were scoping?
Most of them are anywhere from 2.5 to 4.5 foot, probably.
Okay, so very shallow.
Yeah, they're shallow.
So how are you setting this up, like on your graph? Like, because for folks who don't have forward facing sonar, you can like set your depth range and all that on your screen. How are you setting that up to be kind of dialed with it?
Some people are like over crazy about it. I don't touch my stuff very often. I was shooting 70 feet, and I shot 15 foot deep, which, I mean, when I went shallower than that, I didn't like the distortion in the graph. I'm using a 12 instead of a 10. And I think the 10 would have made it a little bit clearer for me because of the pixelization on it. But I don't know. I don't do really anything special. I'm not, you know me, I'm not a grapher. You know, if you told me to get out there and graph ledges, I'm screwed. Like I suck at that. That's my extreme weakness.
Right.
I've got to get that figured out, but it's just something I have worked a lot on. Uh, I've got, back home, we don't have to fish deep, most of the time. So I used it a lot, crappie fishing and doing stuff like that. And I've spent a lot of time in my aluminum boat messing with the one I have on it, just to try to get it figured out. And I'm not dialed like, I just would see a blob and I'd be like, well, let's go ahead and sit there and fish for it till it bites. Everybody tries to look for a fish and I'm looking for a movement. I think that's where the distortion of people trying to figure out how to do it. And I have confidence in doing it. A lot of people don't have confidence. That's a thing. If it's a tool, I'm going to use it. If I can try to learn how to use it, I'm going to be better at it than, try to be better at it at everything I do. But I have spent countless hours behind that thing. It's not something you pick up and just go, okay, you automatically catch fish. It took changing colors, size of weight, line size. There was a lot that went into it. It wasn't just go out there and ta-da, you catch 25 pounds. It's dude,
some people think about Santee though. They think, oh, Santee is going to be easy.
No. In practice, literally 5 to 7 bites a day, and I only had 3 bites on trees the entire practice.
So what led you to go to trees then? If you didn't get as many bites on them?
History. And I pulled out to that first tree. I had caught fish off of that tree before in practice last year before last. And I was like, I was already pissed off because I had nothing in the box at 130, everybody had me picked to do well. And I'm like, oh, Mr. Consistent, you just got your teeth kicked in, And when I pulled out there and that happened, it was like light switch, and it just so happened I pulled up to 2 trees. I caught a couple more keepers later in the day after that, but it was on some stuff that I kind of had actually where I was actually headed to before I caught the good ones on that first day. But it was just a matter of running by the right tree. I never caught a fish off the same tree each day. They were done.
Right.
And that really blew my mind because I ran the same daggum trees every single day. Just waiting for one to pull up there. They never did. I don't know if it was because it was late in the year, and those fish are they're getting done spawning. But I planned on throwing a chatterbait, and that was about it. And the whole tournament is what I planned on doing. I didn't catch very many on practice, but when you did catch them, they were big ones. And I committed the first shoot till 12 o'clock doing that. And I was really hurt whenever they didn't bite it. I planned on pulling up there because I hadn't done it I'd done it, 4 or 5 hours a day, maybe 6 in practice. And, you get bit every now and then. So I was like, okay, if I really commit, rotate my 10 grass beds I got, I'll get bit. I have yet to catch a fish out of a grass bed since that first day of tournament. Oh, it was talk about hurt your feelings.
It seems like for whatever reason, like you would think that those grass fish wouldn't move, but it seems like for whatever reason, those fish move the most on that fishery itself.
They did, but what I did notice on day 3, I caught one that was like 8 pounds late. And Aaron was with me shooting, getting some content for the day. And I looked at him, I said, we might whack them. I said, they're coming because that fish I caught was white and she had just moved up. She was getting ready to spawn. So, and every fish that I was catching out there in that grass was actually pre-spawn. So they were coming to me. I didn't realize it, but I think it was just the very tail end of that wave of spawners coming up.
That's super interesting.
It was weird. That's late. Which Patrick told me that they spawn in May, but this year's been weird.
It's very weird.
It was like cold and all of a sudden got really warm and then it cooled off again. And now we're back. Now it's going to get hot again. Mm-hmm. So these fish they can be in 3 inches of water or 33 feet of water. It's a weird year.
Yeah. So two questions on that. One, in regards to cypress trees, because I was talking about this with Andy, I think on 2 weeks ago on our show. I absolutely despise cypress trees because well they're fun to fish, and I think I've come to a conclusion after talking to a buddy that is a local down there, because I fished Santee and I fished Caddo Lake in Louisiana, which is a big cypress lake,
Mhm.
and I've learned that like it's easy to somewhat break down a cypress tree, but in regards to finding like the bite on cypress trees, that it's more of like I want to gauge your opinion on this, but you have the only difference that set these trees apart are depth, and then you have depending on how many knees that the tree has, if it's a clump of tree, individual tree, isolated, that sort of deal. Um, but he mentioned that like you have to go cycle through a lot of them in practice to then find the groups of them, and that's how you find the cypress bite. Is that essentially how you do it? You just go fish a crap ton of them until you start running into bites?
Yeah, that's what I've done. I'm Oklahoma. We got like 4 cypress trees in the state, and trying to learn how to fish them was different. And actually, Santee, the cypress trees that I fished weren't necessarily trees that had knees all around them. All the ones I fished here, and don't get me wrong, there's cypress trees with knees on them here. It's not that they don't have them, but it's not like the ones in Louisiana where it seems like they have knees, 20 feet around them. It seems like.
Yeah,
I mean, it takes time to fish
everywhere.
those,
Yeah,
and the Santee ones don't take near as long to fish, or it doesn't seem like it. But yeah, it's like in the stump hole on Santee. You can literally, I put my trolling motor down at 8 o'clock in the morning and not pick it up till 6 o'clock in the evening, and you just go fishing
yeah,
because there's a reason that those fish are on a certain tree. It seems like if you can figure out the depth, has been the most critical thing for me on fishing cypress trees. Not saying that there's not fish. If you're catching them out 3 foot of trees, there's not some on 1.5 or 6 foot. It's just that's where I'm getting the consistent bites on with what I'm throwing. If you're throwing a
right,
worm or a spinner bait, those can be on completely different depths of cypress trees. I mean
right.
that's just part of it. So
Will you
but you do
find
got to cycle to them.
right? Will you find like so say on like windier conditions that the shallower the tree, you want a little bit more depth on the tree because the fluctuating water level, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it seems like in lakes that have a consistent water level, this is just my experience, not, if they have a consistent water level, it seems like the wind can hurt that super shallow bite. That's
Mm,
just my opinion. Some people's going to bash that and say, no, it's not. But for me, that's, on me. Now, a lake like, say, Texoma, Eufaula, if it's got waves rolling in it, because those lakes, they fluctuate, back home in Oklahoma. It seems like it doesn't matter. I've flipped trees that have had when the wave rolls over it, you can see all around it, and then all of a sudden you catch a 4 pounder out of the root ball. Now he must have been like buried on the side, then all of a sudden
yeah,
he's back up. But that's just how the fish react to that.
right.
But yeah, I don't like a lot of wind on the trees. Last year when
Common.
we were there, if I wouldn't have had a north wind on that final day, I think I could have made a run at it.
Hmm.
And I told Aaron that through the middle of the tournament. I said, man, if that wind blows out of the south, we got a heck of a shot because I will be one of the only guys that's protected by the south wind. And I
Hmm.
said, if it blows out of the north, it's going to blow cooler water in there, cooler air, and it's going to screw me up. Sure enough, last year it done that exact same thing. This year it didn't. It blew out of the south, and I was able to hit them again on the final day.
That's super cool.
When
Well,
it's meant for you to win, you're going to win. I don't give a dang what happens.
the stars align. Yeah.
I guarantee you they lined up.
Do you, how what was going through your head when you pulled up on your magic tree on the last day where you're like, I think I'm trying to remember how it went down. So obviously you have a much better track mind of how this went down. But like you caught one, you're like, oh, there's 3 more with it. There's something along the lines I think you said on live.
Yeah, I went and flipped on a tree before I got to it, and I flipped up there, And when I flipped up there, I seen something come from the other side of the tree. And when I picked up, it was like tink, 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 tink. And I was like, well, hell, that's weird. And then I cracked it and it was like a 7.5. And I was like, okay, well, this is nice. At least I didn't blank. And I pulled around and went by a tree, and I was like, I got up on it, and I said, dang, there's a couple of fish there. So I told the camera guy, I says, hey, stay right there. I'm going to fish these other trees and come back to this one. I pulled around there, nonchalant, just I scoped up there, and I was like, she's still sitting there. So I'm about to catch her, but about 4 flips, whack, catch that one. I was like, damn, there's 3 more there. And I think the next fish, I don't know if it was the next one I caught another 7 or if it was another 3-pounder. But I hollered at Kyle. I said, hey, I could win this thing off of this one tree. Kind of joking, but I kind of wasn't. And
I don't think you were.
and I when I cracked the next one, sometimes they would scatter and they wouldn't come back, but all of them kept coming back. And there was actually a fish left on that tree I couldn't get to bite. She moved in after it was over. Yeah. So, I mean, I could have, I don't know. I went back that afternoon. She wasn't there though. But it was one of them deals. I almost gave up on the tree a couple of times. Like I was like, damn, I need to leave. I need to go try to catch another one. But I always had this deal. It's like, don't leave fish to find fish, and so that made me stay just a little bit longer and made it go right.
So why do you think there was that many fish on that tree? Do you think there's multiple spawning on it, or was it just? Do you think it was just a community action? I don't even know how to describe it.
Yeah, Santee's a weird place. I talked to Cook about it after it's over with, and he said he's found 3 to 4 fish on a bed in 3 foot of water, 2 foot of water. So I don't know if there's not. I mean, Santee's got a lot of good spawning, area. I thought. But these fish would just use certain spots. It was weird. I think, when a fish makes a bed, it's like, well, he made a bed, so all of us in the whole country are going to go here and use this one. I don't know if that's how it is, but that's what it seems like. I mean, everybody I've talked to is, even in the past, have said, man, I've been fishing a bed, and all of a sudden I catch a 5 off of it, and by the time I'm putting it back in the well, I walk back up and there's 2 more sitting on it. So it's just it's a different place. It's a
bad problem to have.
I mean, that's terrible. I mean, normally you catch 1 off of it, you're like, well, that bed's done. But they were multiple fish were using the bed, so it was perfectly fine.
That's super unique. I'm very curious as to why that is. Have you ever seen a fishery that acts like that?
No, I mean, none of my stuff back home does that. If you have 3 on a bed, that's like a unicorn. So and I'm not a super big bed fishing guy. I mean, I like to do it. I'm not super good at it because I can't understand how a fish acts very well because I just don't do it much. So it's definitely, I've never been to a place like Santee ever.
Yeah, that's wild. So, dude, walk us through the process of, like, you pull up to a tree. Are you making a flip before you pan on it, or are you panning on it first? And then how do you go through, like, if you see a fish, your process of trying to catch it while also using scope?
I'm going to flip on every tree regardless if I scope it or not. I mean, 70 feet, I can cover a lot of trees, but just trying to look for that blob. And plus you got to fish. If you got wind, I mean, you got to fish every tree because there were some trees that had stuff around them that I couldn't see. So I'm going to flip, I'm going to make 3 or 4 flips on each tree, even if I don't see a fish, just because. But if I do, I'm going to pull up, drop my poles down, and sit there and try to figure out where those fish are sitting on the tree and what they really want. I've kind of got it broke down to a couple of baits that I really like to flip. Mainly one, the woolly bug. I mean, that's just what I like to go with, and just put different weight sizes on it. And I'm going to flip until I figure out what they actually kind of want to, what they react to. It just takes time sitting there looking at it. I mean, like I said, I spent 4 days staring at a scope. I mean, I'm still up there flipping. It's not like, oh gosh, that's the only way. I probably caught, I don't know, out of the ones I caught, probably 14 or 15 came off scope. The rest of them were just blind flips up there to the tree, and probably maybe more than that. But that's just not really hell. There's probably a little right at half of my fish came off the scope, and the other half came flipping the first tree because the first flip was always a female. It seemed like so if you crack her, then you know something else is there sitting waiting. I'd slide up there and just stop and sit there and fish. But it was like I said, it just takes time. I mean, you got to get confident in something you're doing. Just like I'm confident in throwing a Falcon Carry Amistad and 20-pound shooter. That's my confidence. That's what I've had tied on for years. And so that's whenever you got confidence in that, and then you can put something else, another tool to use, it just kind of makes it all roll into place.
Right. Are you using scope like in more other shallow methods than what we saw you do at Santee?
Yeah, I'm always got it spinning back and forth. You never know when you're going to scope out and see a stump. I'm a shallow water guy, so I'm going to roll down the bank 90% of the time. And, I always kind of pan out. Every now and then you'll see a brush pile, or you might see that rogue fish that people hunt down with scope. I'm not the hunt fish down with scope. That's not me.
You don't chase them?
No, heck no. If they don't bite on about the first or second throw to them, that's a carp or a crappie or something else. So I just keep rolling. I don't play with them that long.
Like you hear about like Corey Johnson and Chris Johnson, especially with smallmouth. They've more do it visually, but you hear about guys doing it with scope of like how they will chase a fish and make like 40 casts at the one fish and they'll finally get it to eat. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I feel like I've tried to do that as a kid, like chasing a fish and try to make cast. I'm like, I'm sitting there, it'll never eat. You're spooking it. And it's a mind blowing concept to me.
Oh yeah, that's about 38 more flips than I'm going to make. I can promise you that.
Yeah, that's right. I see it spooked the first time, and I've already given up on that fish. I'm like,
oh, no doubt. Yeah, I can't do that many times, no doubt. So, no doubt.
Well, dude, I think it'd be safe to say if we see Santee back on the schedule for you guys, that there's going to be one tree we're going to see Luke at.
There's going to be a couple. I mean, but the eelgrass has kind of exploded there, and that hurt me. I mean, because a lot of my trees I've caught fish off of were covered up in eelgrass, and I guess they couldn't get them fanned out enough or what, but I never caught a fish off of them. So that kind of sucked really, because I was expecting to roll in there, and I had one tree I caught like a 3 and 2 5s off of last year, and that tree has not turned to fish for me since. So, I mean, eelgrass.
That was what Robertson was fishing, right? Was eelgrass?
Yeah, he was fishing. Yeah, he was fishing eelgrass trees, but I think there's probably a void around some of them. If there's a void on it, they were definitely a lot better. So I just think, and I think that's the reason those guys were catching on wacky worms better than I was flipping on certain trees, because my bait's falling down into the grass and the fish can't find it, and their bait's sitting there hovering above. I couldn't do that. I was about to stroke out watching a wacky worm. Because I stopped. I tried getting them to eat a wacky worm on some trees, and I couldn't do it. Like my head was
no patience.
No, it's gone.
It was interesting watching like Bryant Smith and Cobb on live, just skipping wacky ring under every tree they saw, and it was just like sitting there and just like just holding it
for eternity.
Yeah,
and you got me over here dropping bombs on stuff. I mean, it's just I mean it, and that goes back to Cobb. He's good. He's good with the wacky worm. Cobb is. So he's confident with it. So
no,
I mean,
fluke stick. Sorry, fluke stick.
So he's confident with it, and that's what he likes to do. And that he had. I mean, we stayed beside each other. We ate dinner every night at Patrick's together and stuff, and both of us every day was like, I don't know if I got any fish left. He said, neither do I. And it was like, we just keep rotating trees, and we'd finally, run into the right one. I mean, he was doing it relatively the same thing I was, just in a much slower fashion.
Right. We got David Jong from Angler's Channel here in the chat, and he's asking if you fished any new areas compared to 2022.
Oh, yeah. Most the final day was in the same area that I've caught them out of in the past, but the other ones, I caught them mainly. Probably 85% of my fish came out of different areas this time.
So were you fishing like the same set of trees like like back to back day after day?
Oh yeah, I just kept
And they'd
rotating.
reload?
No, different trees would catch different different trees would have fish on them. I never caught them off the same tree. Like if I caught them off the first day, I never caught another fish off of that tree.
Oh, okay. So after you caught one off of it, you kind of
Yeah,
just knew that
yeah,
that
it was
was
done.
done.
Yeah, but I still went back to them and looked again because I was like, okay, prove me wrong, please. You
Right.
know,
Right.
hopefully one decides to show up. How can three fish be on a tree and not ever be there again? So
Yeah, and then with the way that lake was fishing that time, I mean, shoot, just one fish went a long way. I
yeah,
mean, that one
it,
flip could change your whole day.
oh yeah, and that's what that place. We've talked about it. It looks like the weights are astronomical, and we just demolished them. Now it was literally, well, we talked about it. One guy of the top, whatever, 10 for sure, is the only one that caught a limit every day in the tournament. I mean, it was, if you missed a fish, that's liable to have been your tournament, you know. So
Yeah.
it was a grind. But when you set the hook at Santee, it's normally not a small one. I mean, it's
The
normally
average is
is
unreal.
astronomical. I mean, it's rich. It's dumb high, really.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I imagine you go back to the weights. I bet the average fish was close to 4 pounds. You know, just guessing. And I don't know if
It's
that's
very
part of
intriguing to see that.
it's way up there.
It didn't seem like 2.5s or threes were getting caught. It was like pound and a half and then straight to four.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a neat place. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not take your kid and have a blast catching fish place, but if you like to fish, I mean, it's a fisherman's lake. It's not a grafting stuff like that. You go out and you fish. You put your head down and just go fishing.
Right. Dude, I'm still trying to get this through my head. So like you fish, so say you fish 5 trees, you catch one on say 1 and 4, and you go back the next day, fish the same 5, and you catch one on 2 and 5 instead. That blows my mind because I'd be like, man, I fished those trees yesterday. I'm not going back. Dude, this is like that mental hurdle I get to get over. And I'm sitting there like it blows my mind. So I mean,
But
cool.
whenever you didn't have anything going in practice, like people were probably like, "Oh, he lied. He smashed them in practice." No, I made laps around Moultrie, Marion, the stump hole twice, 3 times in those 3 days of practice. But the only thing I was consistent, I was getting a few bites more in the middle lake than I was in the other two. I
Mm.
call them lakes. I call a stump hole or north of the bridge another lake because it's an entirely new situation up there. Um, and I had a little bit of history, and I said, like I talked to my dad. He's like, well, normally you have a good practice, you suck. So maybe a bad practice, you'll go fishing. And that's what I did. I mean, I
Yeah.
fished. I mean, I burned 10 gallons a day, and that's just to run across the lake and back. I mean, I didn't run around much. I put that trolling motor down and just went to work. I mean, because I'm not one. If I run around, and I can't run around against these guys. Like I'm not one to just jump up and go because to me I'm fishing behind them then, and you don't want to fish behind these guys. I don't. I mean, I'll fish behind myself, but I don't want to fish behind Smith or Christie or Hackney. Especially fishing that stuff.
Right.
So I get an area and I kind of buckle down now and just go fishing.
It's funny when you are in like positions like myself where we get to watch you guys live. And it's when you get guys that are going through some really good stuff, they're not catching anything. They look at the camera, they're like, I feel like I'm fishing behind somebody. I should have caught a fish there.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, like we're watching live, we're like, yeah, you're fishing behind somebody. We watched somebody just fish right there.
Yeah, there's been 25 pounds just got jacked over those 3 trees.
Yeah.
You're wasting your time there, buddy. Keep going.
You're about 30 minutes too late there, pal.
Guarantee it.
Oh man. Well, dude, seriously, it was super awesome to watch. It looked like an absolute grinder. And like to your point, the fish that we did see get caught on live, they were damn biggins.
Oh yeah.
So it was a cool show to watch. It was cool to watch it go down. And dude, it seemed like it went down your way, the way that you would have wanted number one to go down.
Oh yeah. I mean, I couldn't ask for any better than how it happened. Got to go down doing something that I have literally grown up doing my whole life,
Yeah.
and for everything to line up and to literally throw pretty much one bait for 8 tournament days is almost unheard of. I mean,
awesome.
I did catch a couple on like a drop shot, something dumb, and I caught one on a jerk bait. But I literally caught all my fish doing what I love to do, and pretty much I had 7 rods on the deck. 3 of them had the exact same thing on them, and the other 4 were decoys, I think. They was just up there for,
Oh, are you one of those? Are you?
No, it don't matter to me. If someone's come look at my boat deck, they'll be like, well, Palmer's got the same 4 things he always has tied on. I mean, that's just
it doesn't change.
No, I mean, hell, I keep it simple. I don't go way out among doing things, and because you've got to do stuff you're confident in, and if you're not confident, you're going to get beat.
Right.
That's just how I've always been. It's like in basketball. I was confident shooting a 3-pointer, but I dang sure wasn't confident going in the lane and getting my stuff thrown the next week. So I just sat out back and keep shooting threes. And that's kind of how I've went into fishing. I mean, do what you have confidence in, and things will work out eventually.
Right.
Hopefully.
So I'd like to dive into a little bit of, we talked briefly offline on lay. I'm not going to ask you to dive into your practice on lay, but more of your mindset. But before we get to that, walk us through your setup for that Yum Woolly Bug, how you're flipping it.
Like I said, I throw a Cara Amistad from Falcon, and 20-pound Sunline shooter. I throw a 3/0 strength shank hook. I had him a quarter, or a 3/16 a quarter, and a 5/16 ounce Rougarou tungsten. Those 3 weights, depending on the depth, how the fish was acting, would determine on what size I was using.
Mm-hmm.
That's about as simple as it gets, and high speed reel, obviously. But other than that, it was, don't get too, out there with it. Just stay simple. And if that's, if you like flipping 16-pound test or 18, I think you can get away with it there, because you're really not getting in extreme heavy stuff. Yeah. But I like to set the hook. And 20-pound, I used 18 last year. I went ahead and stepped up to 20 this year. That's what I was comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And I liked how my rate of fall I was getting on my weight system too. So that made another big difference also. And we didn't have any wind, so it's a lot easier to flip when you don't have wind and everything too.
That makes sense. 2 questions on that. One, I'm in this stage where I'm experimenting with just a whole bunch of hooks, brands, all that jazz, just trying to figure out what I like. I'm leaning a lot owner, but I'm actually experimenting a little bit of Hayabusa. But are you comfortable saying what brand flipping hook you use?
I mean, I'll throw a jungle hook.
Owner jungle, okay.
That's I've tried a lot of different ones. I've been through good batches and bad batches of them. And the ones I got now, I make sure I check everything, but they've been good. I like the keeper on the back. Mm-hmm. It sets up a little bit higher on the hook. And it seems like it holds my flipping baits on a little bit better. I've tried the other ones where they have the metal keeper on them, and it seems like eventually that kind of slides down, or it's not up high enough. Yeah, so that's why I like that one. I've used them for a long time. I'm like you. I've tried a little bit of everything. I've tried Yamas, owners. It's just kind of
gone through the gauntlet.
I've been through it all and tried different things, and it's trying to find a hook that the point doesn't roll after 2 fish. And metal nowadays is not good as it was 20 years ago. That's just it. I mean, it doesn't. I'm not saying it's not a good hook or anything, but you're going to have flaws and stuff. So you just kind of got the one that doesn't have as many flaws. But they were good to me. I mean, I can't complain. That jungle hook, I throw a 3/0 pretty much on everything. I'm really not a guy on the big hook. I've tried the bigger hook and I lose fish on it. And some guys, they're diehard 5/0, or whatever, flipping.
Yeah, I can't go over 4 for whatever reason.
And maybe it's because I just ain't man enough to set the hook hard enough or something to get it into them. But
I'd say you set it pretty damn hard.
But that's just my preference. I mean, I've tried 4 and 5s, and it's just like I have some hookup ratio loss on them, so I throw
Okay.
that 3-aught which hell, I even throw it on a 10-inch worm. I mean,
Really?
hell, yeah. I mean, if they get it, and you can drive it home, I mean, you're gonna
True.
get them.
Yeah. True. Are you last question on that? Are you snelling with that hook too? You're going
No,
snell
the only time I snell is when I'm punching, uh, and I actually throw a TK 130 when I'm punching. Uh, that's a hook that I like for it. I actually snell way below the eyelet of the hook, like you know how it's got that little plastic barb.
Yeah. Yeah.
Snell below it, like almost down the
Whoa.
base. Way down it.
Whoa.
Yeah, because everybody ties
Sorry,
it
buddy.
together.
That's getting clipped onto social.
That's something I've done. And because I had some hooks one time, it wasn't. And also, if you ever when you slide the weight down there and it'll pop and that hook will come up. Have you ever looked?
Yeah.
It uses certain different weights. This was before I was with Rogru. I had different weights, and I'd have 3 different companies of weights in there that I just grabbed because I needed some tungsten. And the way the cavity on the bottom of the weight, when it would hit that hook, some it would turn to the side and some it'd pop straight up. Yeah. So
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
whenever I would drop it down on there, I'd make sure that hook popped straight up. And if it didn't, I'd cut it off and retie and get another different weight up. A Rogru's got their cavity on it. I like it. And it kicks that hook straight out. So definitely watch on that. I mean, it's something. And plus, if you snell below that far, that thing's going to pop up hard. And because a lot of people, it's snelled right below the eyelet, which is probably where it should be. But when I'm punching, that's what I have to do. Because I had a tournament in Oklahoma, it cost me about 20 grand because I didn't do it. And after I started doing that, once I started snelling way below it, never had no issue again.
Dude, that's wicked.
Yeah,
that's super cool.
Me and Hallman.
You're gonna make me go tinker about that.
Yeah,
you're gonna make me go.
And he was like, he looked at me like, "Are you nuts?" I was like, "Dude, that's what works for me. Everybody's different,
Yeah.
So I mean, you bounce ideas off of each other, and eventually, something that I didn't know that, or he tried that, or whatever. And
you bet your butt, Hallman's gonna try it now.
Oh, he probably hell, he ain't gonna try it. He's won way more money than I've ever thought about winning. So he probably ought to stick with what he's doing.
Yeah, I just feel like he seems like such a genuinely curious angler that he's just gonna try it the next time he's fun fishing, just because Palmer told me I'm gonna tinker with it.
That's somebody he tinkers with tackle all the dang time. I think I'm the only person on the tour that doesn't tinker with tackle. I literally throw my 4 boxes in there, my 4 Falcons, and all right, let's go fishing, guys. It
works.
I mean, it sometimes does, but it's confidence.
Yeah. Well, dude, again, congrats. It's freaking awesome that you got that blue trophy, and I think if anything, it just gives you more steam rolling forward for the rest of the season and going forward. But dude, Lay Lake, you mentioned how it's got you going wild upstairs in the noggin. Won't ask you specifically what you're doing or anything like that, but more like when you're spinning out like that in practice, you don't understand really what's going on or what to do next. How do you refocus or reset the mind to go into the next day of practice or the final day of practice?
Man, I don't know. I've still got 20 rods out, and when we get off this, my butt's going to the boat barn after I eat, and I'm going to take all that crap off. I'm going to put me a few flipping sticks out there and some stuff I got confidence in. I tried doing some fancy stuff like, woohoo, look at me. I've got some secret grass stuff that I use back home and it works. And that's absolutely not worked at all. So I'm going to change up a few things. And I got to get some bites, man. This has been probably the worst practice. I had a better practice at Knoxville when it was 14 degrees than I'm having at Lay Lake right now. And
wow,
it's been tough, man. And I don't know if I burned almost 30 gallons a day on Lay Lake. I didn't know that was possible, but I just ran. I'd run this way, run that way, just stupid. And I've got to get back to fishing. I mean, And I've done this on a couple of practices that's really pissed me off about myself instead of just going fishing. Um, you just gotta slow down. I mean, if you're a guy that likes to fish shallow or deep or whatever, go do that. There's always fish in that deep zone, shallow zone, mid range. There's always fish there. It's just finding out where that group of fish is.
Right.
I've got to find that group of fish tomorrow. In a bad way. It's been a grind, man. Like I said, it's been tough. I mean, I'd be tickled to death with 10, 11 pounds, 12. I'd be tickled to death with that.
Wow.
And that's sad because this lake's got a lot of good fish in it. It gets fished a lot. I think they had a Tuesday nighter tonight. There's guys running all lower balls of the wall this evening. So, I mean, you don't normally do that on a regular Tuesday night, just going out to fish with your buddy.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of, I don't know. It's been a grinder, man. I don't like having this many rods out. I don't know. I'm about to go put them all up, I think, and just, I don't know, help pick up a spinner rod, do something stupid tomorrow. Probably my luck. No.
Do what Luke Palmer does.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to do. And if I can get bit doing that, and if I can get me 6, 7 bites flipping or swim jigging or whatever, that's fine. I mean, that's all you got to have here. If you can get 5 bites in the grass or, 5 bites flipping laydowns or whatever, I think you can do all right. But I still ain't figured out which one's got 5 bites in it yet. And I've been hours on the water this week. So
now you got one more day.
One more day. I mean, that's what's stupid about me. Hell, I ran all over today, and I kind of said, okay, this is where I'm going to spend my time tomorrow, and I'm going to go fishing. I mean, got it. I mean, some guys are grafting. I know there's going to be some guys catch them deep here, I'm sure. We all know that's not Luke at all. So I'm going to get up there where I need to, and or hopefully need to be, and just go fishing. Try to enjoy it. I'd like to cash a check and go back home with another check and a blue trophy. That would make the trip a lot better, because if I go home missing a cut, I'm not going to be happy. I've already missed enough this year. I haven't missed 3 cuts ever on the elites, and damn sure don't want to do them all in 1 year.
Well, I'd say you got a good streak going right now, so I'd say just keep rolling on that, buddy. You'll be just fine.
Yeah, that'll be all right. All you can do is do what you can do, fish as hard as you can, and you'll be in the chips. That's what Aaron says. Put me back on the chips. So I'm just gonna do the best I can. If they bite, they bite. I mean, that's all you can.
Intuition got you this far. You might as well rely on it, right?
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Well, buddy, I'm gonna let you go here. I got one last question for you, just something more on the fun side. But if the elites all of a sudden turn into a team tournament, who's your first pick to be your team partner?
I'm gonna have to probably go with Christy or Hackney. Those 2 would be my picks to go with me. I'd have to fish behind them and just be the net man. But
I was gonna say who's getting trolling motor, because
I just go ahead. You guys got it. I'm not gonna. No, I think they'd be a lot of fun. I mean, I'd really like to get to both, either one of them, just to pick their brains. I've watched Christy. We filmed together and stuff, and it's impressive watching him fish. He's so fluent, so smooth at everything he does, and then you watch Hackney. Hell, it's Hackney. I mean, it'd be a lot of fun. I like both of them and think very highly of both of them, and it'd be fun. I guarantee you, there'd be some crap talking involved in the whole thing for sure.
Oh, I bet. Well, dude, I'm sure you can make that happen, getting on the water with them boys. But
maybe so.
That would be entertaining, just so, because I know you're not confrontational like that, where you'd just be like, okay, you can have the trolling motor. Where if you put those 2 on a boat, it'd be interesting to see the fight for the trolling motor.
It would be. It'd be as soon as the key turned off, someone running to the front deck, like pushing each other out of the boat. Yeah, that'd be it.
Yeah, my money be on Christy. Just he's probably a little faster. He's a
little quicker off the step. Yeah,
that's right. Well, buddy, again, congrats. Appreciate you taking time out during practice to hop on this thing, and I'm sure you'll figure it out, and I'll be looking forward to watching you on lay.
I hope so, buddy. Appreciate you having me. It's always a good time.
All right, buddy. Take care. Good luck tomorrow.
Thanks. See you.
See you, dude. Folks, that was Luke Palmer, your recent Bassmaster Elite Series champ. Super pumped to be able to call him that, and it was a fun event in itself because the guys were struggling. But when guys that were catching fish weren't catching a lot. I mean, like you guys saw, but the ones they were catching, they're bigs. So it was a super fun event. Watch it all go down and all the drama. Super good to see Luke come out with that blue trophy. And sounds like things are a little bit stingy here on Lay Lake, so we might be in for a treat for Bassmaster Live this coming weekend. I, for one, love Bassmaster Lives. I'm sure Luke and these guys that are on the water will disagree with me saying that I love the absolute grinders for these guys, but I love seeing these guys that aren't. It's not haymakers being thrown left and right. You see these wheels turning in their brains. They're not catching a lot. They're struggling to get a limit. Those are the types of tournaments that I like to watch because you see the most critical part of tournament bass fishing and bass fishing in itself go on, and that is decision making. And these guys you have so many talented anglers in the world when it comes to bass fishing, but these guys are at the top level of competitive bass fishing because they're the best at decision making. So for me, that's why I love to watch the tough events, because you see decision making at its finest. Some guys don't make good decisions. Some guys make great adjustments. And you see that go down, and that's a big learning lesson that you can take from it. Especially when you watch like the live mix, that isn't more the show, because the show is going to highlight the action. The stuff where you see the guys not catching, those are the types of things that you can really learn from. Because you guys know, with Serious Angler, we always pride, on the message of forever a student. We actually have T-shirts and hoodies saying "forever a student" on the website, SeriousAnglerNetwork.com. If you guys want to get those, we live by that statement. So, super cool. Looking forward to watching this weekend. Unfortunately, I am not going fishing, which kind of is a bummer. Might try to sneak out Friday at some point, depending on if we're fully moved into the new place. But I have some cool stuff to show you guys here coming up soon. But we got a lot more do it mold stuff, especially with the new place having a cool bait room. Once it's all set up again, I'll show you guys. But appreciate you all joining in tonight. Great show with Luke Palmer. This coming Thursday, we're having Mr. Drew Gregory back on the show with the Lay Lake going down and the Alabama spotted bass, or the Alabama bass, as Drew refers to them as, which I think is actually their scientific name. We're going to get on and talk about the difference between spotted bass and Alabama bass and that whole jazz, and just catch up with Drew. It's been a while since he's been on the show. And maybe prelude a little bit what might be coming down for Serious Angler, the podcast network, later this summer. Because let me just lay it out in the line for you folks that are still watching right now. And if you listen to this whole thing, is there's a new show coming to the network. That's all we're going to leave it as. So again, take that nugget, take it how you will. Appreciate all you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.